I got hit head on by a Harley in Malibu. He sent me 150 feet off the cliff and I broke my back and my shoulders and arms.
You're an absolute miracle that you're sitting in this chair right now. A total miracle.
I'm not meant to be stagnant. I will never be that person that's just able to be like, I'm okay serving tables. I have to constantly challenge myself to do so.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Ignition Point. I'm Debbie Hart.
Sean Finnegan.
And today we have the
Jeremy
Davis, real estate investing expert.
Snowboarding expert.
Teaches about creative financing deals, helps people get into real estate investing. Very good stuff to learn, especially right now. You were just sharing right before we started that your marketing has had to change dramatically over the past couple of years. So what is it that you do now, and how do you pivot on the fly like that?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so going back a little ways, I was originally in Los Angeles just before COVID hit. And when COVID happened in LA, in fact, actually I wasn't even in real estate at the time. I was in hospitality. Specifically, if you guys know what a sommelier is, I was the wine guy.
Whoa.
Right, so I was working in Beverly Hills. COVID hits, everything shuts down. It literally, the city dies, and then riots start popping up everywhere. And I remember I thought to myself, I'm like, I need to get the hell out of this state really, really badly. And I thought, I'm like, what's the number one market? I wanted to get more into real estate. I dabbled about a decade prior to that point. In fact, the reason that I got into hospitality was I went to buy a house in 2012 and I was out on an injury, a motorcycle accident. I got hit head on by a Harley in Malibu. He sent me 150 feet off the cliff and I broke my back and my shoulders and arms. And so I had a really...
150 feet off the cliff and you're walking?
That's typical Malibu. I mean, that's filled with cliffs. And...
Yep. It's filled with cliffs and bad riders and drivers. And so a lot of recovery, opiate addiction, like 3 years go by. And then finally 2012, I'm like, I can see that real estate's what I want to get into. 2012, you could see that now we've hit the bottom and now we're climbing up. And so I went to a bunch of real estate agents and I said, hey, I've got money saved up. My credit's fantastic, but I've been out on disability. And I'm like, but I want to buy a house. I want to get into real estate investment. And every single agent, which is one reason why I'm on this crusade against the agents that don't know what they're talking about, is every single agent said, I'm sorry, you can't buy a house. You've got the cash, you've got the credit, but you don't have the work history. And so they're like, why don't you go serve tables? So I took their advice because I'm thinking they're the authorities, they're the expert. And so I started serving tables. And I'm not one to be complacent and not, challenge myself. So I eventually became a chef, I became a sommelier, and found my way into Beverly Hills, and then COVID hits, done. Everything's done.
Many people get advice from what we would say are experts in their field, and we can choose whether or not to take the advice, and you took the advice.
Mm-hmm.
I unfortunately took the advice.
Yeah.
And that was actually a huge learning lesson for me, that just because somebody has a title or a job position, it doesn't make them the authority for the entire industry. It makes them an authority about what they're currently thinking about.
This is so critical right here.
It's kind of like, if you go to college, you go to university, and there's a professor teaching you. It's really funny that younger people that go to school, they think that their professor or their teacher is the end-all be-all. They think that what that teacher is teaching them is the absolute truth about everything. But as you get older and you get more experience and wisdom, you begin to realize that what they're teaching you is what they resonate with. But there's other truths behind that. There's other alternate realities, so to speak, that they may not want to talk about. It's the saying is that the victor dictates history, right? So whoever wins a war can dictate that. Same thing with a teacher or an authority. So going back to that now, something that I deal with every day is, and one reason I teach a lot of classes for agents and brokers for this reason, is that when an agent is working with their client and a client asks a question, and if the agent doesn't have the answer to that question, what are they going to do? They're going to shut it down. They're going to say that's not a good choice.
So you can't do that.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
You should go bust tables.
Right, exactly. Right. So I go to bust tables. I work in the industry. COVID hits, and then I think to myself, I go, what is a major market that I anticipate is going to do well? And I knew that Utah was a primarily conservative state, definitely red politics. And I knew, I saw what was happening with the migration of, you had Washington, you had Oregon, you had California, you had all these liberal cities, and where did they go? They went to Boise, they went to Phoenix, and all of them went to Salt Lake. So I chose Salt Lake, and then the other reason that I don't normally say is that I chose Salt Lake because I wanted to kind of burn the boats behind me. And because I knew that there was really no alcohol scene here, no offense against the Mormons,
Right.
but I'm like,
Yeah.
what's a city that I can move to where I'm not going to hold on
This
to my
is going to
comfort
be
zone?
good for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So moved out here, didn't know anybody here.
And let's just stop right there too,
Yeah.
because I think it's so powerful. I mean, here's someone who you flew off a cliff. I mean, you're an absolute miracle that you're sitting in this chair right now. A total miracle. And you're trying to recover and go through all this rehab, and you're having the opiate stuff, and you're going through all these hard times. What was that one thing where you said, "Hey, there's something greater. There's like it's God, it's whatever the universe calling you to do something greater"?
I've always been that way, and I think if we want to go back 40 something years, I think it comes down to my father. I think, and if we're really looking at that, my dad was a financial failure. Absolute failure. We had every single house we lived in. If we were renting it, we were evicted. If they tried to buy the house, it was foreclosed on. And so it was a hoarder house. It was, to the ceiling with trash and garbage. My mom, you would never get that from me, but my mom I don't know how, to be honest, I don't know how she's still alive, but she's always weighed about 300 to 400 pounds. She always had health issues, and it's a miracle that she's alive, but coming from that family, it taught me that I'm meant for something greater. Mm-hmm. I'm not meant to be stagnant. I will never be that person that's just able to be like, I'm okay serving tables. Yeah. I have to constantly challenge myself to do so. And like even becoming a sommelier, a lot of, again, Utah doesn't really know what that challenge is, but you have to be able to pick any wine and tell you what year, what country, what region, what type of grape, and all that stuff. And to me, I'm like, hell yeah. Like I'm going to challenge myself.
I've been with Kevin O'Leary at dinner, and he does the same thing every time. Get the sommelier over, and it is just what you said. It's a fascinating thing. Like the questions because they're connoisseurs. I mean, they know that craft.
Right.
And so they're hitting, like I've seen him hit with hard questions, and it takes so much training to understand exactly what you said.
It's actually a lot of deductive reasoning, right? So if we want to get into let's talk about just like one glass of wine for 1 second, and we'll go back. But really what you're identifying is you go, okay, what's the acid level, right? If it's high acid or low acid, what does that tell you? It tells you that it's coming from a certain climate. If it's high acid, that means that it's going to be a colder climate. It doesn't ripen as much, so you have less sugar content, you have more acid. Now what do you automatically do? You automatically eliminate warm climates around the world. And if you can identify the flavors of that wine, that grape, you now know, okay, I think it's a Pinot Noir grape, but it's high in acid, which means it's not going to be from California, which is a really hot environment. It's probably going to be from northern France, which brings me to Burgundy, right? So like but
you can just see the complexity of this is like mind spinning.
With that being said, though, a lot of that comes into, and again, I think that a lot of my assets or the skill set that I've developed from being a sommelier was two things. One, it's a lot of deductive reasoning. It's ability to identify market trends, pivots in the market, and we'll talk about that in a second, but also it is the ability to sell something based off of passion and emotion rather than logic. And my job was to essentially walk up to you guys, you're on a date, you're at a table together, and it's my job to sell you a $25,000 bottle of grape juice. And you need to understand why you're doing it. And I'm going to present it to you in a logical manner of like, listen, this costs this much because of this reason, but emotionally I'm going to sell you on why you need to get that bottle of wine or why you should be putting $500 per ounce caviar on a baked potato. It's again, it comes into a logical reason, but ideally you're actually embracing the emotional decisions of humanity, and that's what brings you to sales.
I feel like you've used all of your background, including your childhood, going through the near-death experience, going through your hospitality, all to help build your career now and what you're doing.
I feel that I think they all do complement each other. At the time, like when growing up with my family, I never would have thought that I would eventually have gotten into real estate for the purpose of helping people going through foreclosures or hoarding situations, but that's literally all I do every single day now is solving those people's problems. When homeowners are so in that ditch, they have dug themselves so deep in that hole and they can't get out of it, an agent, a realtor, a broker is not going to be able to fix that problem. And so, working in real estate, I don't buy houses, I actually buy problems and I solve those problems, and that is essentially what gets the discounted price that I get.
Yeah, and you probably are able to come in and negotiate from a place of compassion and empathy, having experienced some of that, which helps the homeowner resonate with you and not feel like they're being taken advantage of. Or
I try to resonate with them. Hard part is that a lot of the times those people, those families that are going through this are going through the first stages of grief. So they're still in denial. So that's a whole psychological thing all in and of itself.
which you understand more than most.
I wish, I tell you this right now, I wish that somebody knocked on my parents' door and said, we can help you. Like, we can solve this issue. But instead, the bank took it. I remember there was a woman with the bank that came in and was crying because she was helping me pack up my toys, and I didn't understand what was going on. And she felt so horrible that my parents, being hoarders, having me live in that situation, I mean, dog feces, cat feces everywhere, like, it's insane to be like, I grew up to be functional, but
Not only functional, but you kind of made your pain story, your origin story, your passion project now.
Yeah.
It's like how you help other people now.
that's what I try to fix. Yeah.
So now you've been building, you guys, social media content and everything else out there, and you're investing in real estate. In addition to that, you're spending a lot of time really educating
Other
the
people how to
market
do
and other
that,
people
yeah.
how to get involved in that real estate business as well.
It's interesting that when we think of real estate, we think of two things. We either think of you go get your real estate license and you become an agent, and essentially what your job is, you're kind of like those people at Costco that sell or they give away the snacks, right? They give away the treats, that you don't really need to know about the house. You just need to read the back label and just understand, like, okay, it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, and that's essentially no offense to agents, like, that's what they're pitching. That's what they're selling. They're selling one product at a time, and they just need to know it well enough to walk somebody through the sale, right? Then you also think on the other side of the coin, you think about real estate investors that are multi-millionaires. You think of, Kevin O'Leary, you think of people like that they can buy a house with their eyes closed because they've got so much money, and that's what makes them a real estate investor. But there's a middle ground. There's the people that you can actually buy properties. I mean, for me, I've got multi-millions in my portfolio, and I started with nothing. And essentially it comes down to joint venturing. It's working with other people's money, right? So it's everyone always says, like, I don't have the money. And I say, I promise you the money will come when the deal's there, right? And we all know that. In all type of business, money is the easiest asset to gain if there's a deal to be had. And so again, what it comes down to is it's networking. It's getting on podcasts like this. It's getting your way out there. For me, I remember I had a private lender that had about $350,000 that he reached out to me because I literally made a story on my Instagram about how I should cut a lock off one of my fences.
Jeez.
I'm like, should I use like one of those plier things, or should I get a saw? And someone DM'd me and said, hey man, I love seeing what you're doing. I've got about $350,000. Can I be a lender for you? Dang. And through proximity, that person is, I mean, what is he trying to do essentially? Is he trying to make money off his money? Sure. We could all say that he's trying to make interest off it, but ideally, what is he ultimately trying to do? He's trying to learn about real estate. And so by proximity, by working with me, connecting with me, the saying is that you have to bring something to the table. It's either going to be treasury, time, or talent, right? You have talent. You have talent. We probably all don't have a lot of time, right? Our calendars are usually filled. So it's either you're bringing money, you're bringing the expertise, or you're bringing the boots on the ground, the hard labor. And for him, he had the money. And so what does he do from that? He comes to me, he makes connection with me, and I say, hey, you bring me the money. I'm going to show you how I've done this real estate deal. I'm going to show you where I'm making the money from this and what my exit strategy is. You're protected. We've secured your money based on a lien on the property, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it was like 6 months later, he ended up making his interest. He got full education on doing the deal, and now he's doing real estate himself.
That's
Dude,
amazing.
Making an impact.
Yeah, you are. So now you're going to be taking that to more people, right? Aren't you building some courses and trainings to teach more people to be able to do that?
So you had a guest on this podcast, Pace Morby.
Yeah.
He's a personal friend of mine, really, really great guy. He's one of my mentors for sure, and a lot of my success, I'd say a vast majority of my success in real estate really comes down to him and the things, the mentorship that he did for me and all the teachings he did for me really helped that out. But speaking to him a couple of weeks ago, for me, I've always lived with the, if you guys know Alex Hermosi,
Sure.
And Gary Vaynerchuk, they have very similar mindsets where it's give, 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 give. Gary says give, 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 take, right? Or jab, 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 right hook.
Right.
Alex Hermosi is just jab, 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 jab until somebody goes to you to ask. For me, I don't know if it was partial imposter syndrome. I felt that maybe, I'm not successful enough to where I can retire on an island somewhere and have my real estate work for me. I'm still working hard. Yeah. But for me, it was partial that I just didn't feel comfortable teaching people how to do real estate and make money off it. So this entire time for years, I have essentially just, if someone comes to me for advice, I'm like, let me show you how to do it. And I don't get a cut of the pie. So now I go, a lot of people are coming to me. A lot of people are asking for advice. Right now, this market in real estate, I don't care who you talk to, if they're saying they're doing great right now, there's a fib there, right? The market has shifted. Right now, mortgage lenders are down 70% on their normal business. People are not buying houses because interest rates are so high. And
home prices.
Yeah, home prices have not come down. And interest rates went up. And so right now, you have very little demand. There's not a lot of people buying. And the only people that would sell, why would you ever sell a house with a 2.5% interest rate?
Right. Yeah. Just stagnant.
Just add on, right? Build on, right. Build an ADU in the back, rent out your basement.
So the market isn't working right now. It's a broken market. If you're needing to sell, it's because you are in a dire situation. And if you are needing to buy, it's because you're in a dire situation. A lot of people realize that the cost to buy a house is more expensive than rent they would pay until interest rates come down. So, as I was saying, anybody that is saying to you, oh, business is wonderful, everything is going great, they're flexing. And so for me, I was talking to Pace about this, going back to my conversation with him, and he goes, why are you not mentoring yet? Why are you not monetizing that in some way? And I said, because I don't feel like I've earned the ability to ask yet. I don't feel like I've earned the ability to take from somebody until I keep giving more. And he goes, stop looking at it as the monetary aspect. Stop looking at it about making money up front. Look at it as making money on the back end by joint venturing with your students.
It's powerful.
Have them bring you leads. You show them how to close the deals. Your cost per lead has now gone down because you're not spending. I think we're at $700 cost per click. Cost per lead. Our cost per click is about $130 right now through Google. Anytime someone goes to my website, just to click it, $130. Light it on fire.
Maybe you shouldn't have shared that with your competitors.
Sure. Don't come to Utah. But yeah, if I can bring my cost per lead down and also be able to help other individuals become successful in real estate, that's the goal.
I feel like we should almost do an anniversary show a year from now, because I think this is what you're seeing is an ignition point right here of this idea when you have with Pace. And it's like, this is what I'm going to do. And I feel like the back end thing and being able to provide value and in the process make a profit is the right model.
I'll plant one more seed that I mentioned to you off camera. We are in negotiations for our own building right now for our event space, because we also do meetups and we also try to host get-togethers and stuff. Yeah. So right now, fingers crossed, I hope that by this time next month we'll be in an actual office space. We'll convert that into an event space so we can do our our power hours, we can do our boot camps and all that stuff, and we'll see where we're going to be in a year. But I really hope to make it like a hub for investors to find like your place is called Tax Hive, but like I want to create a hive mind to say, hey, you've got a safe space. Come here, you can shadow us for a day.
Create a magnet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And let's have some of the highest performing minds in Utah all be in the same spot that all specialize in the same thing.
Dude, it's an absolute honor to have you, Jeremy.
Brilliant idea.
Just what we talked about, I love it that we're in the process. It's not like you have an ignition point and then it's over. Like you just have these ignition points that are happening as we speak. And we're looking forward to following the journey. Follow Jeremy. Yeah. Absolute stud.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thank you. If you guys want to follow the Jeremy Davis on Instagram and also the Jeremy Davis on YouTube, I'm going to start putting out more podcasts. Have you guys in my studio.
Sweet. And then when he opens up his building, you should all go and do the power hours and be a part of the journey.
Definitely.
Love it. Cool.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
If any of you watching today have any doubts that your current CPA is not helping you take 100% advantage of the deductions you deserve and helping you stay compliant with the IRS, then don't hesitate to get involved with Tax Hive today. You won't be disappointed.